It's interesting to compare A Midsummer Night's Dream with the tragedy Romeo and Juliet that most students study at school. Both plays take place over about 4 or 5 days, and both plays concern the theme of romantic love and the obstacles to romantic love. There's a famous scene in Romeo and Juliet in which Juliet's father threatens that if she doesn't marry the Count Paris, the man he has chosen for her, then he's going to throw her out of home, basically that she can beg or starve. And this is a terrifying prospect for a girl in Shakespeare's day. Likewise, Aegeus threatens that if Hermia doesn't marry the man he has chosen for her, Demetrius, she can be put to death. So in both plays, we have an angry old man blocking the lovers being together, blocking romantic love. And in both cases, this is a catalyst for a plan of escape. Now, Romeo and Juliet's a tragedy, whereas A Midsummer Night's Dream is a comedy. Tragedies end unhappily with lots of death. Comedies end happily, usually with marriage. Multiple marriage is in the case of most of Shakespeare's comedies, and also the promise of children, the fruit of those marriages. Before Act 3, Romeo and Juliet could have been a comedy. We have the lovers marrying at the end of Act 2 and the promise of the rival families coming together, the promise of peace. But in Act 3, Mercutio dies, then Tybalt dies, and everything unravels up to the tragic deaths by suicide of the lovers at the end of that play. And in A Midsummer Night's Dream, this tension is resolved in Act 4, and that play ends happily, of course, with the multiple marriages and with Lysander and Hermia together. Scholars think that these plays, Romeo and Juliet and A Midsummer Night's Dream, were written in the same year. And I like to think the play within a play that ends A Midsummer Night's Dream, Pyramus and Thisbe, is a sort of cheeky nod back to Romeo and Juliet. It's based on a tale from the Roman poet Ovid's work, The Metamorphoses, and basically it's Romeo and Juliet in broad outline. We have two rival families, forbidden love, terrible misunderstandings, and the tragic suicides of the lovers at the end of that play. So in the final act of A Midsummer Night's Dream, the wedding party see this terrible play with a terrible script, but in that story, the lovers Hermia and Lysander see the death that could have been theirs had they inhabited a tragic rather than a comic universe.